sunny evening, 3 Derry volunteers were shot.
The play is about 3 Derry citizens who seek refuge inside the Guildhall in the mayor's parlor after one of the civil rights protests and demonstrations.
It's inspired by the events of Bloody Sunday in Northern Ireland in 1972, a march on which Friel was actually participating in.
This is a different kind of family formed during the play, when 3 people who meld into a family are brought together in a fancy room where they've never been before, will never be again, and have never seen anything like that.
What do you have, Lilly?
What have you got?
Whiskey, gin, rum, sherry, brandy, vodka.
No, hold on.
What?
Do you think you should?
What?
Touch any of that stuff?
Why not?
Well, I mean to say, that's not ours, and we weren't invited.
Look it, young fella. Since it was the British troops driven me off my own streets and deprived me of my sight and vision for a good quarter of an hour, the least the corporation can do is placate me with one wee drink. I think I favour a little port wine, young fella, if you insist.
Honest to God, this is mad. Really mad. Oh, sitting here in the mayor's parlour on a Saturday afternoon, bloody mad.
The character I play is called Lilly, and she's the mother of 11 children. And she's just this character that's a paradox because she's so poor, the poorest character you've ever read in a play, but she's so rich.
Are you smart, Lilly?
Me? I never could do nothing right at school, except carry around the roll books. And when the inspector had come, they used to lock me in the cloakroom with the mad mulligans, looking for my wains, the charm and stuff.
She really is one of the most extraordinary female characters I've ever read.
Are you a victim?
What?
To the drink?
No, it's just, there's no one here, and that's
Will
not
you
ours,
take
so-
one drink and don't be such an old woman?
I play Adrian Casimir Skinner. He's a definite drifter. He's a bit of an anarchist, definitely a dreamer, and somebody who kind of is fighting his dreams because the realness of the situation is too present for him to ignore. So he kind of continuously hides behind bouts of flippancy and dismissal and silence.
Through tattered clothes, small vices do appear. Robes and furred gowns hide all.
Mother of God! What's the reg Skinner on the hat?
Mayor's robes, aldermen's robes, councillor's robes, put them on, and I'll give you both the freedom of the city.
Things happen in real time, and then we're seeing all of the different components that come into play from the church, from the sociologist, from the judge, from the soldiers. Everybody is telling this same story, but from their perspective.
Facts with honour of the coming days may indicate that the 3 were callous terrorists who planned to seize the Guildhall weeks before the events of February 10th. Or the facts may indicate that their misguided scheme occurred to them on that very day, while they listened to revolutionary speeches.
Any movement, trade union, religious, civil rights, revolutionary, pacifist, any movement which gives them this objectivity, which organizes them, which gives them real hope, promotes solidarity, such a movement inevitably destroys the psychological and social core of the mold, even though they still may be desperately poor.
And your report states that the deceased died from a total of 34 wounds.
Forgive me correcting you, my lord, but what I said was the second paragraph on page 2. I think I pointed out that 34 was an approximation.
I see that. And had you known, as you learned later, Brigadier, that there were only 3 terrorists involved, would you have acted differently?
My orders would have been the same, my lord.
Thank you, Brigadier.
No sacrifice is ever in vain, but its value can't be diminished if it doesn't fire our imagination, stiffen our resolution, and make us even more determined to see that the dream they dreamed is realized.
What people are actually rising up against is, to quote Michael in the play, fair play. And so I think that it's as relative and resonant today as it ever could have been.
The differences in the characters and what they're all going for is so much fun because you've really got people to push up against. There's just a lot to be gleaned out of every moment, and Friel writes it so perfectly.
As well as being this passionate cry against injustice, it's an incredibly funny play and extremely entertaining and full of joy and laughter, and in a sense more alive and more joyful than anything you'll probably ever see.
This play celebrates the spirit of Derry and the spirit of that protest in the 1970s and the day that changed the lives of people in Northern Ireland.
We have their